Good morning, and we are now on day 6 of the National Recount exercise. The morning has started smoothly based upon the reports I have received, and the work is progressing um, in an orderly and in a fairly efficient manner. Um, I want to thank Ms. Yolande Ward for recanting from that position which she took yesterday when she said that Mr. Mingo's declarations were not objected to. As you are aware, I produced a letter and I spoke to you at length of the objections that we made, and fortunately, as promised me in a letter, she came out here and recanted from that position. Um, Another thing that is unfolding is that as the day progresses, Mr. Mingo's fraud is being unraveled. I posted today on my Facebook page a random sample of about 6 boxes, which shows the 6 boxes alone show that Mingo's tabulation and declaration unlawfully and fraudulently awarded hundreds of votes to the APNU AFC. What I found strange is in a news report, I think done by Newsroom, which I didn't see any objection to by Mr. Alexander. Mr. Alexander is being quoted as saying that he is not advocating and he's not supporting a call for a comparison to be made of Mingo's fraudulent declaration with the statement of recount or the statement of poll in GECOM's possession. I find that to be an extraordinary statement because Mr. Mingo has committed the vilest fraud, electoral fraud, over the past 3 decades in the Western Hemisphere. And he's an agent of GECOM. He's a returning officer appointed by GECOM. He's carrying out directions of GECOM. He's acting as an agent of GECOM, perpetrating a rank fraud against the electorate of this country. And a commissioner of GECOM says that he sees no import in those declarations and he is not interested and will not support a call for a comparison of those declarations with the statement of recount and the statements of poll. In any part of the world, a commissioner saying something like that would have been dismissed instantaneously. Especially since this is a commissioner who is advocating for Mingo's declaration to be retained and to be held in abeyance. So this commissioner is embracing the fraud. And that's quite unfortunate, and the population should know that. I have never seen anything like this. But we will continue to expose all these irregularities and all these frauds that are being unfolded. And hopefully in the end, the electoral process will be vindicated, as all the parties said and as all the accredited international observer team said at the end of polling day. The process was fair, the process was free, the process was orderly. Now all of a sudden you are very well aware of the recently launched orchestrated agenda of APNU AFC to discredit polling day activities. But as Mr. Harman said, he launching some Eagle Eyes operation. Well, the Operation Eagle Eye is uncovering the fraud of Mingo. So we are glad that they are launching that kind of operation. The Eagle Eye operation is picking up all Mingo's fraud, and we are transmitting it to the public so that they can see the fraud that was being perpetrated.
We're on to the 6th day of the recount. What is your view so far on the pace of works being done?
We continue to lament that the pace must be increased. We are advocating for additional stations if possible. I understand that others will be calling for that as well, because if we continue at this rate of speed, the 25 days deadline will not be met. So if GECOM If GECOM intends to keep its own deadline, then GECOM has to innovate, and GECOM has to take such steps that are necessary to bring greater alacrity and pace to the system. Also, GECOM has to, on a more frequent basis, come out here and defend these alleged irregularities that APNU is making continuously. This election, as we have said from the beginning, is not a PPP elections. This election was an election that was managed by GECOM. Rather than Mr. Alexander come here and try to defend Mingo in this surreptitious way, he should be defending that process that he managed as a commissioner. And Mr. Corbyn and Mr. Trotman and Mr. Lowenfield and Ms. Myers and the chairperson must all come out here and defend the processes that are coming under attack by the APNU. It is not the PPP's obligation or responsibility to come and defend all these ridiculous and preposterous allegations that are being made on a daily basis. Alexander Trotman and Mr. Corbyn, Mr. Lowenfield, Yolande Ward, the chairperson, Ms. Myers, you must call upon them. And when you get an opportunity, you must ask them to defend these allegations that are being made. Because at the end of the day, they are an independent body and they manage the elections as they are required to do under the law and the constitution of our country.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Craig.
Hi, good morning. Leonard Craig, APNU AFC floor supervisor for the recount process. Now, I happen to be running through my phone and came upon an interview just completed with Mr. Gunraj, alleging all kinds of things which I would consider to be misinformation. Now, Mr. Gunraj referred to us producing evidence of dead people voting, people who have not collected their ID cards, as voting without an affidavit of identity, and people who have been confirmed as migrated. He referred to these things as recent invention or some term like that. And one of the fallacies he raised is that our agents were present on election day, and so once election day is passed, you cannot produce any evidence of rigging or any irregularity of the election. That is patently false, and that is the reason for an election petition, because our agents are not allowed to disturb the electoral process on the day. So if you notice a person without ID came in to vote and they did not take an oath of identity, you can't get up and say, let this election stop now, and these kinds of things. What you do, raise your objection, allow the process to continue, and then you make a note. So in the intervening period between the election and the recount, all those reports from our agents were scanned with fine-tooth comb. And when we scan that, we are able to pick up, based on all the objections that were made, we are able to pick up these things. And then we corroborate the information based on information that is available. For example, there's a register of deaths. There are information being kept about people who depart, and right down to their flight number and destination and all those kinds of things. And we have that information. GECOM also published for the public to see the list of persons who did not pick up their IDs. We have that list, the PPP have that list. And the PPP is afraid of what the continued scrutiny will reveal. The same PPP had agents inside of the polling station, and then we heard a member of the PPP coming to this same press and claim that they got 10 new votes. Your agents were there. You should reject those 10 new votes because they were there. They counted your votes, and then now you're claiming 10 new votes. You got 10 new votes from the same process. And I am saying that don't be afraid of the process, PPP. The process will reveal the truth. We are going to take this process to its logical conclusion. Let's go with the process. This is not the time to talk about recent invention that you know it's not recent. Normally, this information that we are providing will form part of an election petition because an election petition goes straight to the credibility of the elections. Now, this process, this recount process, has two main objectives. And that is one of those is to determine the credibility of the process. So this is kind of a hybrid process. It's both a recount and a determination of credibility. So it's part of an election petition and part of an election day activity. And some of that is because of this intervening period between, and we had 2 months, and our agents did their research based on the objection that took place on the day of election. This is nothing new. It's a continuing process. And members of the public who are going to be consuming this, don't allow yourselves to be fooled. Nothing new is being introduced that was not introduced either on election day or any subsequent time. As you will know, on the day of counting or on the day of declaration for every district, certain districts, in fact 5 of them, we asked for a recount. And the recount request came based on the reports we received from our agents. Unfortunately, the recount was delayed until now. So it's the same process. And anybody who says otherwise is a stranger to the truth. Thank you.
Mr. Craig, you said your agents had recorded these anomalies on election day.
Yes.
Are they presenting those evidence currently in the respective counting
Yes.
station?
Every
evidence.
every
When they raise those objections and queries during this recount.
Okay, now objection queries that are raised are stored in the agent's book. We give the agent a book for queries, and they write these queries for the party to know. Some of them, let me put it this way as well.
I was really referring to the when they raise the queries at the recount here, if they are producing those evidence.
Yes, yes. Every query that we raise at the recount, evidence is produced. Now, what we will start doing from the end of from this week, we will start enumerating all the evidence and all the queries that we make, and then we will do an accumulation day after day after day after day after day. But we are presenting, and not only that, when we present, even if we present this information in like on a sheet or on a spreadsheet, it is for GECOM to take that information and go to the relevant authorities to cross-check it. For example, GECOM has a pink slip, and GECOM has evidence of whether an oath of identity was taken, and the pink slip has the name crossed off as having voted. And GECOM also has the list of names of people who did not collect their ID. So GECOM can prove that easily. That's GECOM's record. Then the immigration record that are accurately kept, GECOM can verify that when we finish or the entire process, or they can do it region by region. As a region is completed, they take all of our objections from that region and they can send it to the registrar, or they can send it to the immigration department, and they can say, were these people present in the country on this day? And immigration will say yes, no, yes, no. Are these people recorded as dead? The general registrar will reply yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Then GECOM will say, were these names crossed off on the pink slip? Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Maybe some of them will be taken off of our entire master list. Some of them will be taken off. But maybe we are confident that all of our objections are based in fact. We are confident about that, that all of our objections can be backed up. And so probably 99.9% of them will come back as being true.
If any one of these allegations are proven to be true, given that you can't say who a person votes for, what do you suggest GECOM do?
We are not at the point of suggesting what GECOM does. That is a matter for GECOM. And we will come to a position probably sometime soon. But remember that at the heart of this recount is testing the credibility of the results as well. Not just whether it was free, whether the election was free, but for the election to be fair, it also has to be credible.
Given the allegations that your party is raising as well, it shows that, or it can show that the results which were previously declared were not credible. Then how was your party pushing for the president to be sworn in using those results?
Okay, we are not saying that it was not credible. You see, another reason for raising these things is that even if they do not impact the overall results of the election, it provides both lawmakers and GECOM with evidence of what is possible, or what are possible infractions on election day, and we can go to Parliament, change some of those laws. GECOM can adjust its administrative procedures on that day, and so all these things have implications for all these types of activities. Now, directly to your question, remember, we have always said that we are a people who are law-abiding and we abide by the Constitution. And the representation of the People's Act and the Constitution, when you put them together, they suggest that even though you raise anomalies on election day, you allow GECOM to make a declaration and then you go to an election petition. First time ever in the history of Guyana that you have an election being disrupted by all these processes. And we were following the law. So you don't just go and say, oh, we are not going to swear in the president because of these irregularities that we find. You go ahead, you allow GECOM to complete its work, and then after GECOM has made its declaration, you then move to an election petition. And we have a history of that already, where irregularities were found in an election and the entire election was vitiated and we had to have a new election. We have that already. So, to your question, ma'am, the answer is available.
Thank you.
Is that all? Okay.